not too late for summer sowing, and that's what I'm down on the plot doing. But you've got to be canny how you do it, because you can't have failed to have noticed just how dry the weather's been. I mean, we've got cracks in the soil here between me cabbage and the earth. I mean, it's just dust bowl dry. Usual tricks, usual method applies. What you do, same as in spring, give the soil a razz over with a hoe, just to remove any weeds and loosen up that soil surface. That creates a tilth, as we gardeners like to call it, something that you can work with. And then, using the hoe, scrape out what's called a drill. You're across this, I know. It's just a scrape in the soil that allows you to drop the seeds in after you've added a bit of water. There's lots of vegetables you can sow at this time of year. Florence fennel, that's one of my favourite late summer crops. It's bulbous as opposed to on clean stems like the herb fennel. That's because if you sow it after the longest day, the plant wants to create a storage unit to see it through winter, and that plays right into our hands, because that storage unit, that bulb, has a lovely anise flavour. Gorgeous thing. Sow it before the longest day and there's half a chance, or a good chance, that it will run to seed, run to flower and not produce the bulb. What else have we got? Spring cabbages, cauliflower. You notice that they're covered in fleece to keep the cabbage whites off. Also kale, that will see us right through the winter. Beetroots, chard, and herbs like dill, and basil. Yeah, quite a bit of stuff. Turnips, beetroot, I mean the list goes on. Once you've got your drill out, fill it with water and be generous. You want enough water to go right down into the soil and connect with the moisture deep below the ground. Now there won't be a lot at this time of year, but don't skimp on this stuff. Fill up that drill right to the top like a little lake and let it soak away. For a row like this, in weather like this, good half a canful, and then let that drain away. The seed I'm sowing are French beans. They're dead easy to sow, they're nice and big. And they also have something of the, I'd like to swap them for your cow about them, which I kind of like, yeah, of fairy tale and folklore. There's different ways to sow them. Some people, like some recommend that you plant them 2 seeds to a station, i.e. 2 seeds to a hole, 40 centimetres apart. Now that's fine if you're growing them in a field, but in rows like this where you've only got like what, a 1.2 4 foot wide bed, you'd have very few beans come up. So I prefer to sow them 10 centimetres, 4 inches apart in rows, okay? And I place the seed out on the soil before pushing it in the ground. That's important if you're fussy about straight rows, because if you push them in as you go, you lose track of where you've been. Better to have them all in a row, adjust them as necessary, and then using your finger, push them down into the soil. They want to be, I don't know, actually good 8-10 centimetres below the ground. You notice that, and that includes the sides of the drill. So they're in the moisture. And then, last one, get rid of that bit of orash, cover them over. And this is when my plank comes in. Plank sits over the soil. Now you'll notice, if you've got an allotment, whenever you have a bit of wood lying on the ground, moisture collects below it, and that's just because of the way the soil works. When the soil's bare, what happens is you get what's known as a dust mulch, which is a load of dry material collecting on the top of the soil, and that protects the moisture below the ground. If you don't cover over your seeds, they just end up sitting in this dry and dusty soil and they won't sprout. Put the plank on top, and what happens is the shade underneath it draws moisture up from deep in the ground to where the seedlings are and where they can lap it up and start to grow. Now this is a trick that I started using when I had an allotment in Cambridge, and this was back in the 90s. And I'll tell you what, in the 90s, hardly anyone was interested in growing vegetables. There were no waiting lists for allotment. In fact, my allotment, I was the sole occupant of it. I was the only gardener on it. It looked like the Serengeti everywhere apart from my plot, just grass and brambles and nettles and wilderness. Anyway, not only was I alone, there was no tap, no running water. So I had to develop tricks that would help me sow plants and grow them without using too much H2O. The plank is what I've been doing ever since. Now I've moved west, I live in Devon now, where it's supposed to rain quite a lot. Well, this summer has proved that things are changing. And I'm back to using these old methods, and I tell you what, they do work a charm. One thing to say is I really like this plank for this job, because you notice, right, it's got a curve on it. You know how like when you leave wood out it gets a bit of a warp? Well, that's perfect, because our beds, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, are taller in the middle than they are on the sides because of the amount of compost we put in. But yeah, placed over the top. You've got to check underneath them every day to look for signs of life. You'll see the seedlings coming up. It could be a little bit of green, it could be a little bit of root, just pushing the kernel up to the soil surface, as nature does. And as soon as you notice that, adios the plank and let the plants grow. Give them a good water, keep them watered, and they'll grow away happily. And I'll tell you what, with this plank in place, I'll be picking fresh beans in what, 8 weeks' time.